everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to the Magical Minute. I am Jessy Hamilton. I am here with some agents from the Magic Tours Travel. We have Holly over here.
Hey.
And we have Heather over here.
Hello.
And we are here to talk to you guys about rumors.
Woo!
I know, very exciting stuff that may or may not happen at Disney. And I do want to say, to take everything we say with a grain of salt, these are not things that have been released in any way by Disney. These are all just speculation. I do have some source material for them, but we're not going to name any names. We're going to keep it a pretty neutral playing field because, God forbid, something doesn't happen and everyone decides to attack the person that said it was going to.
So, including us.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah. This is for fun.
We know as much as you know.
Right.
Now. So today we're going to visit Epcot and talk about some of the things that may or may not be coming to Epcot in the near-ish future.
And Epcot's a great source for rumors right now because it's a wide open playing field. It's the only park that hasn't really gotten any kind of refurbishment in a while, so it's definitely wide open.
So the way that the rumor wheel works is I am going to put a rumor out on the table, and then we are going to sit collectively and discuss what we think of it, and all of the aspects that we believe should be thought about before Disney pulls a lever and decides that was the wrong lever, Kronk. Okay, so the first one that I think we're going to talk about today is the renaming of Future World. What do you guys think about the concept that Future World is going to be renamed, and what is that going to mean for all of the other pavilions in Epcot?
Well, I think it's inevitable that Future World will be renamed because we can't really... Disney has come out and said that they can't keep up with technology to the point where anything can really be a portrayal of what the future could be, because the future is changing much, much faster than it is when any of these future concepts were decided on back in the day. So as far as what it could be...
Oh, wow. Well, it's the same Tomorrowland situation that we hear over and over again. Tomorrowland is only, you can make it futuristic, but it's only going to be futuristic until all that stuff happens. And then it's not going to be futuristic anymore. And right now, what even is located in Future World? Like, what...
Anything that's actually futuristic in Future World?
No, like what is there?
Okay, so we have the Seas Pavilion, Seas with Nemo and Friends, the Land Pavilion, which houses Soarin' and the Living with the Land attraction. We have the Imagination Pavilion hosting Journey into the Imagination and Pixar film shorts. Test Track took over the former World of Motion spot, and Mission Space took over the Horizon spot. And then we have 2 empty pavilions that are doing nothing. Guardians of the Galaxy coming soon.
That's not a rumor.
Right,
no,
that's real.
And it's large. And so the thing here is, like, out of all of those things, there's nothing that even sounds futuristic. Like,
no, because the Inventions is gone.
You have maybe Test Track that kind of could sound futuristic, but if you've recently been on Test Track, you are aware that it's not.
Right. The only thing would be that the future design of the cars, they could update the designs in the lab and in the post show, but otherwise there's really nothing there. And Mission Space could be, like, the movie can be redone to talk about the next project or what, but you're talking about manned space travel for the most part. And I mean, NASA's doing as little of that as possible because we've realized that shooting humans into space is, maybe we should do that sparingly because it could hurt them.
Possibly.
So.
And along with, like, this rumor, I mean, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, which, don't get me wrong, takes place in a future.
Right.
And I don't know that it's even in the future. It's just in space. It just seems futuristic.
Because it's in space.
Because it's in a different planet.
Because really, like, space is kind of the indicator of future still even today.
It's the final frontier.
Right. And it's... Of course. And it's the only place that we, with as prevalent as air travel is now, it's really the only place we can't go. You can get anywhere on the globe.
Where there's not a whole lot of mystery. Like,
right.
That's the problem. We have explored, to our advantages, most of the Earth with the exception of, like, the sea.
Right.
So, like, either we have to go underwater or we have to go in space.
Because, I mean, even Antarctica. I mean, my cousin was a chef in Antarctica for the winter last year. I mean, their summer, but...
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, people go there, and they're, like, to the point where they want, like, restaurant services. They're not like
Well, I mean,
eating
we
rations,
even
you know?
offer a cruise that goes
Right, that touches Antarctica.
So it's, but and then like it also brings up the questions, does a Marvel property necessarily belong anywhere near a place called
Future
World or in general an Epcot? So like there's a lot of questions. The reason that this rumor came about is that during D23 last year, Bob Chapek refused to say the words Future World. He talked about all of the renovations that were coming to Epcot, but would not say that this is happening in Future World.
Right.
And I think that's where the rumor originated at. It does seem like it could hold some actual merit. Like, I believe that they would change it, especially as we see them bring IP into...
I think that's inevitable.
Into the showcase. I see Epcot becoming something that it never was before.
Right. Which is... In one way, it'll be exciting to see what's new, but in another way, I really liked the original mission of Epcot, and I'm sad to see it changing a little bit.
Yeah,
but
it is sad, but at the same time, like, with what's available in Future World, I think it would be hard to get a preteen today really excited.
Right.
About going there.
I mean, we hold a personal computer in the palm of our hand on a minute-by-minute basis, so... It's very hard to say, like, oh, yay, technology, I can't wait to see what the new thing on the computer screens is when I go to Epcot. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, and I think that the big problem with Epcot is that, with the exception of the pavilions, the World Showcase, it's all nostalgia. Like, the reason that all that stuff has all the love it is because of people like us who went there as kids.
Right. And I mean, while I loved Future World the way it was when I was a kid, if you look back and you watch video now and think about it as, is this a place that I would like to go now as an adult? Is this a place that I think kids that were my age then would be excited about going? And the answer is absolutely no. I mean, look at the way the characters were costumed then, look at the attractions that were available then. I mean, you're exactly right. It's only the nostalgia purposes from what we remember. It's got nothing to do with what's marketable in today's world.
And the strange thing about Epcot is, as much as they complain that people don't want to bring their children to Epcot, and they want to revamp it to make it a child-friendly area, it's also where they host a lot of child not friendly things.
Yes.
Like food and wine, as much as kids love food, they're obviously not going to love the nuance of having cultivated food from different countries.
Exactly.
And even flower and garden would be very difficult to get, particularly like, you know, your son is maybe not the person who wants to go look at the topiaries.
And they do a nice job with the playgrounds during the festivals, but it's definitely thrown in as a way to be like, well, if you want to go to this festival, we have something that will entertain your children while you're there.
Yeah, and
as opposed to targeting the kids.
You look at the teenage population, and there's not something there. Like, yeah, you can look for the mouse.
Right.
But
that's not a teenage.
But that's not something they want to do.
It's a 37-year-old draw, but it's not a teenage draw.
Exactly.
So it's a weird thing. Do you think that we're going to start seeing the Future World area become a very child and teenage friendly area where we're going to see the pavilions offer both the showcase offer both child friendly, and that's where they're going to have the adult?
It might be the split more. This is I don't want to call it a kids park because we're not talking about little kids necessarily. We're talking about the under 18 park.
I think that the problem is that I think with the direct competition from Universal, like, we know that this Guardians coaster is coming in as we don't have a super exciting coaster besides Rock and Roller Coaster that teenagers want to go on, because like these kids, they want to go to Universal because they want to go on the coasters, they want the thrill rides. Right. So I think that specifically Guardians we're seeing as a response to all of the coasters there.
We already have Mission Space there, and Test Track is considered a thrill ride because it is the fastest ride at Walt Disney World. But it's not. I mean, it's not thrill. I would take I don't know if I'd take Grandma on it, but I'd take my parents on it.
I once took my grandma on it. True story.
You also took your grandmother on Body Wars, you meanie.
That's also true.
Poor grandma.
To be fair, I had no control over any of those. It wasn't like as I was an adult. I was a child at the time. But so that's a cool thing to think of is what's going to become of Epcot, because with the addition of Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story, Hollywood Studios is no longer going to be the skip-up park.
Right.
Because in the past it's been if I don't need to go on Tower of Terror or Rock and Roller Coaster,
Right.
I don't need to go to Hollywood Studios. But now I think that as Galaxy's Edge opens next year, we're going to see a lot more people who want to skip Epcot, at least until Guardians opens.
Right. And Animal Kingdom was a skip for a lot of people until Pandora
it was,
made
until
it a
Pandora
full-day park.
came.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So now that neither of those parks is a skip, I think you're exactly right that nobody skips Magic Kingdom. I mean, let's be real. Like maybe 5 people a year skip Magic Kingdom, but they're definitely trying to and to help with the crowding in Magic Kingdom, because there's no other park that you go into that feels as packed to the gills as Magic Kingdom does pretty much almost every day of the year now. So with trying to beef up the other parks, they are trying to siphon some of that. Like, instead of going to Magic Kingdom 5 out of the 7 days of your trip and then picking 2 other parks, they want to get people to go maybe to Magic Kingdom 2 days of their trip and
Spread it out.
and enjoy things that are happening in these other parks as well.
Yep.
Does anybody have an idea for a name for what is currently Future World?
The thing is, like, I just feel like Guardians is such a weird property to put there, and everything that I think would be an appropriate name becomes skewed because of Guardians being the ride, because that's going to be the
So if we took out Guardians, what names would you...
I think the name still has to reference the future, because that's what Epcot stands for.
Right.
I mean, it is the community of tomorrow, so somehow there has to be some reference to the future.
I really like, just off the top of my head, I really like Discoveryland, because I really enjoy the steampunk version of Tomorrowland that they have at Disneyland Paris. I think taking that nomenclature and that kind of style,
the Jules Verne style,
it would keep it classic while still allowing for changes to be made in the future, and not necessarily reference what we think the future will be, but what people historic
thought
vision of the
at
future
some point, which is kind of what we have at Tomorrowland in Disney World, is they try to represent that 50s style of what they thought the future, the very Jetsons esque kind of thing,
but maybe not reference the word future in the or tomorrow. Right? Tomorrow is not so bad, because it gives that more nostalgic feel, but I think the word future's got to go.
Yes.
Do you think that Future World do you think that we're about to see a lot of the other rides become thrill rides? Like, do you think we're going to see rehauls and become thrill rides?
I don't think you'll see a lot, because I think if you look at the other parks, they all have 1, maybe 2 thrill rides.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think you'll see them all go that route.
Because especially if they're trying to siphon the Magic Kingdom crowd, they can't go super thrill ride, because they need something there that's going to draw the younger kids. So I don't foresee major, like, rip down a ride and build a new ride like Guardians of the Galaxy is doing, but there's a ton of space that's unutilized in Epcot.
There is a lot of space.
So I could see them adding attractions, maybe keeping the current attractions, or maybe overhauling them and adding IP to them, and then if they need more thrill rides, then maybe adding something completely different. But they will have Mission Space and the Guardians coaster.
And they also have the restaurant. So we know Mission Space isn't changing, because they're giving it its own restaurant.
Right.
So we know that that's going to be there. And they had just built the second track not super long ago, the second venture. But this actually transfers very nicely into so we have a report that the Imagination Pavilion is getting a $250 million overhaul. So what do we think is going to go there? Because you know that if they're going to do $250 million overhaul, we're not going to have Nigel any longer. Because
I hope that we can lose Nigel while still preserving Figment in some capacity.
I do as well.
I don't know that that's what's the most likely, but that's what my heart wants. So.
I think, and I've said it before, I think if they remove Figment, they're going to have a very unhappy
subset
group of people. And they've done such a good job of branding Figment as the Epcot mascot that at this point in time it wouldn't make sense. Like, if you're going to get rid of Figment eventually, you need to phase him out very slowly.
Right.
I don't think they're getting rid of Figment.
I
Like
don't-
you said, he's become the icon. He's kind of become the host of all the festivals.
Yes, he's become the mascot. And
It would actually almost be nice if his attraction was the central attraction of the theme park. If it was Spaceship Earth, but at the same time, like. We can't get rid of Spaceship Earth. It's such an iconic ride, and he wouldn't fit into that theme really anywhere.
So with Guardians going in, you said, what about a name? What if they broke it down into smaller, instead of Future World, they had broken it down into smaller subsets of lands, and we had space? Because we have Guardians, Mission Space, both space-themed attractions.
So if the lower left-hand quadrant became Spaceland, or I'm sure they'll come up with a more clever name.
2021 Spaceland.
And the Wonders of Life Pavilion is still at that location, in that same area, so they would need to almost draw that in to make that complete. But then Test Track's kind of hanging out there by itself, unless Test Track could be pulled into the center.
Unless Test Track ends up with an overlay eventually, because I think that they're finding that Radiator Springs Racers brings in so many more people. And I'm not saying that that's what they'll bring in, but I do think that they're realizing that Test Track is a dead horse. And I think that, is it still sponsored by Honda right now?
I don't think so.
Chevy.
That's what
Chevy. I think that maybe when that sponsorship
I blitz out of there fast. Heather gets trapped there, but I...
Well, I think that as soon as the sponsorship period is over, Disney's not going to look for
another
sponsor. They're either going to make it Radiator Springs Racers, or they're going to put,
which will be really
something
hard,
else in there.
Honestly, there's so much. The track is so different because there's no high-speed loop on Radiator Springs Racers at all.
But there's other things that can go there. So I know that there's a lot of talk of where it will go, but I mean, Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, true.
Could go there.
But Wreck-It Ralph could go to Tomorrowland.
Wreck-It Ralph could go anywhere.
Yeah.
But
Wreck-It Ralph's amazing.
Well, and we have to consider there's two huge unused pavilions. There's two.
Oh, there is.
The Odyssey's not used at all, so they could put something in the Odyssey that complements Test Track to make that its own land.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to build new buildings to bring in. And they could bring in the IP of Cars without it being a replica of
Radiator Springs.
Yeah,
I don't think they have enough real estate to put it there, honestly, if they tried to replicate it.
Yeah, because
there's a lot of real estate in Epcot, but not right in that corner where it sandwiches back into the...
Unless they picked up the attraction and slightly moved it elsewhere, and they demolished something else.
Oh my gosh.
That's a lot.
But, I mean, we're seeing Disney now moving attractions like that. Sure. With Pixar Pier, we're seeing them move Bugs Land attractions and literally just pick them up.
Bugs Land's attractions are
they're
carnival
attractions.
They're very easy to move. I mean, they're very easy to move. We could just pick them up; it'll be fine. But Test Track has a lot more integration into the building, and I think that would be a hard one to move.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the Imagination Pavilion. Do we think that we're about to see an Inside Out ride?
Yes. I hope so.
Yeah. I think it's.
And if that's so, how do you think we're going to incorporate Figment?
Because Figment and Bing Bong could be friends.
They could.
I mean,
they're
come
best
on.
buddies already.
Or mortal enemies.
They're not fighting. They're just hanging out here. They're loving life. They like each other.
I see a Figment could be like your guide on the ride through
the Inside Out attraction.
Inside Out. Yeah.
Which would be cool. Could we even envision something bridging the gap across the walkway and could we tie Test Track into Journey into Imagination and put the Inside Out ride in Test Track, and you could run through long-term memory, or it could be the train of thought going off the track, or something like that.
I feel like it would be hard to be like, well, we need a 60-mile-an-hour Inside Out attraction.
My train of thought goes pretty fast sometimes.
I think that,
there you go.
And then comes to a screeching halt. So I think it's I think it fits.
I think that would be a cool concept, but I don't know that we need a 60 mile
I'm not sure if they can, and I'm not sure if they can bridge the gap over the walkway to make it seem cohesive, because it's a very wide promenade, and it clearly goes into a completely different section of the park. So I think it's probably has to stay separated.
Sure.
But I was just thinking, because Test Track kind of, other than the Odyssey building, hangs out there by itself. Imagination kind of hangs out there by itself. It doesn't really relate well to the land or to the seas. So.
But yeah, Inside Out has to go in the Imagination. It's just such a perfect fit.
Yeah.
But there is like a lot of other talk about Inside Out going to Hollywood Studios and taking over Rock and Roller Coaster. So,
Well, but then again, there's a 60 mile an hour.
Yeah.
that's
Disney,
true.
that is
Right.
not a good idea. Don't do that.
No. If anything, Monsters Inc. needs to go over there.
I
Yes.
do. I firmly believe that Monsters Inc. needs to go
Absolutely.
there.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about Illuminations.
See ya. Oh.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I know it's people's favorite. I'm over
it's. But the problem is
like
that
I've seen
change.
replays I'm done.
it's not people's favorite anymore.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we're talking about
I
it.
think it's people's favorite if they haven't been for like 7 years or so. They're still remembering back. Like the last time I was there, I really enjoyed Illuminations.
Right.
If you stand and watch it now relative to the Star Wars show or to Happily Ever After or even to Rivers of Light, you're like, really?
I think very few people get the message of Illuminations, and for most people, it's just fireworks and lasers.
Yeah.
So here's the things that we know. We do know that Disney has built a large pad behind the Japan Pavilion, which has been rumored to be a drone station because there's been talk of Illuminations being replaced by a drone show. This is wild speculation because the one time Disney did do a drone show, it did not work as well as they had always hoped.
But the fact that they tried it and actually put a show together to test out at Disney Springs where people aren't paying to see it,
Right.
that goes to
Shows
show me that they're very interested in pursuing that technology, even if they don't have it quite ironed out yet.
And there is also a lot of talk that in March a new song particularly for that show was recorded. There are a couple inside sources that said that they were part of the recording process.
I've not heard that part.
So, but the thing is in the world of the rumor mill, Epcot crowds this past summer have been very low compared to what they have been in the past. Do you think we're going to see an Illuminations replacement sooner than 2021, which was the original rumor, but now that Epcot crowds have become so
Low, will they bother?
well, no, will
getting
they do it faster?
Or do you think to get it in?
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think we'd be here. Well, what's now? 18. I don't know. Possibly. I was going to say I think we'd be hearing more about it already. Because when they were prepping Happily Ever After, they were doing a lot of like, oh, this is coming soon. Watch our recording video for the soundtrack,
And I think the one thing Disney has learned is anytime they announce changes and closures,
People get so angry.
so they need, I think their plan would always be to give people plenty of time to make one last trip to see Illumination so they can sell lots of shirts that say
right.
Illumination final showing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And then on the converse, sometimes it seems so long from when they announce it until
Yes.
they can actually implement it.
Yeah.
And trying to keep the hype. I think they suffered from that with Toy Story Land a lot because they
yes.
started so early marketing Toy Story Land because they knew nothing else was happening this year that was really significant.
Right.
And they hyped it so much. Like I was honestly expecting to get to Toy Story Land and be like, meh. Because it was just fired at us at all fronts.
And I think that a lot of people were disappointed in comparison to what it was
Cars
hyped
Land was.
as.
Yeah, and we were bringing another Pixar property and centering an entire land around it. I think they were envisioning Cars Land.
I'm sorry.
I was honestly pretty pleased with Toy Story Land once we actually got there. I thought we had a lot of fun. I thought the attractions were interesting. The scenery was good. The flow of traffic's a little wonky at the moment, but yeah, that'll
temporary.
resolve. Yeah, that's not an issue.
I think the timing of releasing new things is going to be key for them because there's so much new coming to Epcot.
Right.
They can't just do it all for the 50th.
Right.
They're going to have to stagger some things.
Exactly. That's going to probably be everything else is going to be probably ramped up and the park is going to look really great, and then Epcot's going to be the one that all the extra changes filter in over the next couple of years.
All right, so let's move on to World Showcase and talk about some rumored pavilions that are supposed to be coming. So, do you, by any chance, know when the last time a pavilion was put in?
I believe it was 1988.
Yes, so it's been a hot minute.
It was Norway and Morocco were the last two added.
So it's been a hot minute since we've seen new World Showcase pavilions, but there is a lot of space.
Yes.
Tons.
For showcase pavilions that you don't know exist because you can't see it because of sight lines. So the big one that everyone really thinks is going to happen is Brazil. Do you so the people are saying Brazil 2022.
Wait till 2022.
Do you think this year at this coming D23 we're going to get a Brazil announcement?
I think if it's actually happening in 2022, I would expect an announcement this year, or well, next year, because D23's next summer.
Yes.
But because we got the Remy announcement when we did, and that's supposed to be open for the 50th, I think that anything
that would
that's
be the
happening
logical,
yeah,
especially because it's a hard. Building a whole new pavilion, you can only use so much scrim and go away green to hide that kind of construction.
Yeah.
So what we've heard is that it's a $450 million project. Do you think that $450 million is going to include a ride?
I think it has to.
Yeah. I don't think there'll be a new pavilion without a ride. I don't
No,
think.
that's
with IP.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we have Brazil IP.
No.
Three Caballeros is probably the closest.
Three Caballeros because Jose is from Brazil.
Right.
That's
right. That's probably the only thing that we've got that's anywhere close. Of course, we do have some more time to have new movie releases.
to have
before
new
then.
movies, but if they're going to announce it next year, that we know that there's not a Brazil movie planned for the next year.
Right.
Right, but there could be before 2022 because I don't think they released
It could,
that
but it could be
far.
released. But are they? They're not immediately going to build a pavilion with IP in it,
with
not
IP
knowing
not knowing what the
if the IP
Right,
is
is
going
successful.
to be
That's true. Yeah,
worth it.
that's true. Is there any other what other cultures do we have that aren't represented that aren't represented in the World Showcase already that have a movie that we don't have a pavilion for?
Ooh, good question.
Can you think of anything that's like popular enough that it would warrant it?
I mean, no, I don't think that they're really unless
Because like stuff that's hit.
unless
recently.
no wait, they could put up in Brazil.
Oh, they could.
They could put up in Brazil. That's
Yes, that would be
and they know that
amazing.
it's they just started this year putting into Animal Kingdom. What if those are the testing phases to see how popular the characters are?
Well,
That's a little scary because the bird show is not doing well.
But when at DVC night events they've had Carl out and he's been the most popular,
Oh my
Yeah, the
gosh.
characters.
I'd stand in line for hours
Absolutely.
to meet Carl.
right? And he has
Yeah.
his own little scooter and it has all these bumper stickers that say I heart squirrels. It's the greatest thing. It's amazing. So do we think that it would be an up ride would be cool and very
Very
easily
Yeah.
Yeah. And that would be a very easy ride to make both interesting, enjoyable, and family friendly.
and IP.
sure, yeah.
That's what we're seeing right now.
Because, I mean, the ride is going to be a floating house. Like, that's it. It has to be.
Has to be.
There's no other choice.
Yeah.
Unless, so here's my fear. Are you ready for my fear? What if it ends up being a Star Tours Mission to Space with the dogs?
Oh.
No.
No.
No, they shouldn't do it. Cancel it.
So
Cancel
those are
that.
my fears because that's one of the things I can imagine
Yeah.
is running with the dogs.
Yeah. That would be.
But Disney doesn't focus their IP and their rides around the villains.
That's
But
true.
Doug, even.
Oh, Doug.
Yeah. Well, it could be like a ride on the Spirit of Adventure.
That would also, there's stuff that I'm sure that they could put out stuff that we can't even,
Right.
start to fathom.
And it could be they could do a non-ride attraction that was,
Sure,
that's
they've
true.
had
show.
walkthrough concepts in the past that haven't ever come to fruition. So it could be like an exploration through the Spirit of Adventure. The Spirit of Adventure could become a playground.
Oh, I like that.
So I think there are other things they can do with it that aren't necessarily build a ride in the pavilion that still have an It's not necessarily going to be like, I'm going to go to Epcot because I can't wait to go through the Spirit of Adventure playground, but it could be supporting...
But it is a thing.
Right. It could be a supporting attraction that helps to...
Which would
everything
also
together.
then appeal to the younger crowd.
Right.
Which is
Which is part of what
lacking
they're struggling in World Showcase with.
And
also
if that happens, because I understand why they have Up in the Animal Kingdom, but I don't feel like it absolutely belongs there.
Yeah. The tie to South America helps a little bit, but
when you think of Animal Kingdom,
It's
you
not
have
very-
Asia and Africa. You don't
Right.
even have
South America.
Right.
Or Australia, which we should
so-
because there are kangaroos in the park.
Yes. So do we think that we're gonna, if let's say Up comes, do we think that we're going to replace the Kid Cot with wilderness badges?
No.
I don't think, because I think those are very nicely...
They
the
match
whole scouting
nicely.
thing matches well in Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
So I think that's probably going to stay with the exploration wilderness.
But
type of-
as far as a Brazil attraction that's IP issued, that's the only thing
yeah,
That's a great
that I
point.
can
it's
think
that
of.
or it's that or Three Caballeros right now, unless they're unless there's something else in the
So
works.
speaking of Three Caballeros, let's talk about Coco coming to Mexico.
Yeah.
Let's say they put
Well-
Coco in Mexico and then pick up Three Caballeros
And
and
move 'em to
put it in
Brazil.
Brazil. Then everyone could be happy because you don't have those people who are
Right.
like,
You
but
took my
Three Caballeros.
Yeah, because there will be those people.
I don't see them putting an old attraction in a brand
In a new
pavilion.
pavilion.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I don't
see
think
that.
they'll bring the whole attraction. I think
Just
they'll
the
leave
theme.
the
They'll
boat ride
just
and
bring the
just
Three
bring the
Caballeros.
characters.
I don't know.
And
Well, no.
repurpose them
So here's a real thing though. Next year's entire season of DuckTales is
Yeah.
going to be Three Caballeros
That's
themed.
true.
So why are they drawing them in if they're going to disavow
Well,
them?
the really weird thing about the Three Caballeros is like once every 10-ish years they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we are the Three Caballeros.
Right.
We're three happy chappies and snappy strappies. And then kids are like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
The DuckTales
But
has
they
been really
feature-
popular. So
I can't stop watching it.
And they feature at the All Star Music pool.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's just Jose is there. Or it's Jose and Painter. Maybe they're all there. I don't remember. I haven't been there. I haven't been over there for a while.
they're all there.
They're all at the pool. Okay. So
and
that's
of course
another
they're
tie-in.
in Coronado Springs.
Right. Yeah. I hope they're sticking around. I think that's part of what they really need to make sure that they do is to keep
Yeah.
some of those old classic
The old
properties
ones, yes.
and mesh the new ones into it and not
And not just
Go.
a tombstone at the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
We need more than that.
yes.
Could you imagine if there was if they had they should have started the Haunted Mansion with an empty field and then just had a tombstone for every attraction. But yeah, so I think that I would be okay with seeing a Three Caballeros thing, not the ride, but a Three Caballeros thing come to.
And then they could save up for when they add the Argentina pavilion.
which is not rumored yet.
No, that's I just made that up right now. That's brand new.
So how do we feel about Coco coming to Mexico?
I adore Coco.
I do too. But so here's the thing: if they put Coco in Mexico and then they put Up in Brazil, I'm gonna have to drink a lot of wine to stop crying through World Showcase.
Well, luckily you can go to the Food and Wine
instead
Festival.
of drinking through the world, I'm gonna just be crying through the world.
Will you be crying candy?
No, but I can go on Inside Out, harness my inner sadness, and then cry through the world.
There are a lot of options. Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Coco was wildly popular.
And they've already put it there in a display format.
Right.
And in a rare occurrence, it's actually based on a real place.
Yeah.
Right.
Where we also have Ratatouille, which is actually based in France.
Right.
But even Up isn't actually, nobody's
Based on
like, this is
Iguazu
in
Falls.
Brazil.
Right. I mean, that's when you look at the art, it's clearly inspired by.
Yes.
Am I saying right? Izuagu?
I don't know.
Okay.
You take Spanish lessons. I don't know.
But the waterfall that it's inspired by, I believe, is actually in Argentina. It's not. It's not actually in Brazil. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to double check.
I was just thinking
I'd have
of
to fact
South
check
American.
that. But as a South American location, that is definitely where the house is being flown to.
We can just
They say South America specifically in the film, but it's definitely South America.
We should totally just get an entire Araquan bird attraction. But I mean, it's a very good suggestion. I think that if they want to put IP in the park,
People love Flight of Passage so much. Could you ride on Kevin?
okay. So here's can I?
fly.
No, you run. We can. That's what we'd run with. Is Kevin? That's who we'd run with.
Okay.
She. Kevin's a she. I forgot.
My biggest problem with all of Disney right now is that there's not enough Kevin merchandise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need a lot of Kevin merchandise.
Well, Disney's also been doing a lot of exploring into virtual reality and VR.
Yeah.
And they've, so I think we're going to see that come into
These
parks
new things at the Void with Star Wars and Wreck-It Ralph and Marvel that are.
Yeah.
Not only that, but to take a book from a player who's not even in the same game. SeaWorld offers VR on their roller coasters.
Yeah.
Like you can put on a VR helmet and ride the ride, which is and Legoland also has a VR roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, they're not one to necessarily copy what somebody else already has because they want to be the innovators. Something like that, something that's a small scale World Showcase attraction, I could definitely see them pulling some existing, like off the shelf something, theme it, overlay it nicely with Disney IP, call it a day. Because this isn't a place where they want to focus on. I don't think we're going to see any like monstrous looming track attractions back there. They're not going to wreck the skyline.
No,
like
because
that.
And if they do, it better be the Tokyo.
Yeah, very San Francisco.
No, the Japan roller coaster.
Yeah.
It better be the Mount Fuji roller coaster. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But and I think that could play into Coco. Like imagine a boat ride where you're just boating through Mexico, but as soon as you put that VR headset on, you're in the land. You're seeing everything from that perspective.
And could they even do it that you could choose your IP that you're riding in the boat with? So then you could have a 3 Caballeros option and a Coco option.
Not even 3. Well, the music. You can't.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that would.
But they could do a tour through Mexico, or like you could just see Mexico and do a historic.
Right, I probably won't take the IP out of it because that's what's drawing families in.
But then have the Coco option, you know.
And the 3 Caballeros could be on the dead side. Because they're gone. And they'd be over there.
I love it.
All right, last but not least, let's talk about Spain.
I'm pro Spain.
Do we think that we are going to see Spain soon? Do we think we are going to see Brazil and Spain? Do you think that would be the route that they go? Just because that's a lot of countries in or around the same.
I mean, I would like to see at least 2 new pavilions come in. I hope that it's not just Brazil. And Spain is one that's been has been tossed around. Greece has been tossed around. I've heard Russia tossed.
Russia won't happen.
It's not going to happen, at least not right now.
Not right now.
But I could see either Spain or Greece being...
Can I tell you the honest reason why Russia won't happen? It's because there's no good food there.
Well, that's a good point.
The food's very important. And
this is like, it's hard. Like, you can find good Russian food,
right?
But it's hard and expensive. Because good Russian food always involves caviar. Like, that's what is considered good Russian food. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I honestly think it'll be whatever Disney finds to be the most marketable.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that what we'll see is places coming that already have IP associated with them.
Quite possibly. From a food perspective, my preference would be to see Greece over Spain.
Absolutely.
I'm actually going to Spain next year, and the thing I'm least looking forward to is the food that I'm hearing about. I'm like, no, that doesn't sound great. No, that doesn't. No,
but at the same, like with running with Greece, like why not just go for Italy? Like,
we already have Italy. Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Nope, I've skipped that one in my head. I skipped it.
But yeah. I mean, I prefer that. I can't think of it. I've heard like 6 of them thrown out, and I can't remember what all the other ones were. There was an Australia that was...
I think it'd be great to have Australia represented.
Yeah, but I feel like Australia would have a really nice home at Animal Kingdom as far as being more adventurous, being more, frontiersy, and a place that people that are touring in the United States don't know much about, or as much about as they know about European countries. Which,
yes.
it's the bulk of the World Showcase.
That's true.
And then there's the argument, like, do you continue to expand the European offerings there? Does it become the European Showcase? Or, but I mean, we've got China and Japan and
in Mexico.
Right. But of course our, North America and Europe. And I can't see them removing China and Japan because there's nowhere else to then put that.
I mean, unless they move them to Asia in Animal Kingdom.
Oh.
And I don't think so.
That's not a thing they do.
No.
But.
Yeah. Because there've been talk about should they bring in an African country?
I do think that I really think that they should bring in and I think that it would be a great place to be like, here's all the Black Panther characters.
Yeah.
Because if we're gonna have Guardians in Epcot, then we might as well have multiple Marvel.
So if we bring in an African country, what do we get?
I honestly, so I'm torn between Egypt. I think Egypt would be the one that people want to, like, that's the most tourist area that I really think of.
We do have Morocco already, so technically we do have Africa represented, but which is probably one of the other larger tourist areas, just being so close to Europe.
I do like the idea of Egypt going there. And then I like the idea of Nigeria.
Oh. Nigeria would be cool. Ethiopia
would also be cool.
From a food perspective.
I mean, the thing is that there's so many countries in Africa, and it spans so many different climates.
Yeah.
And
it's very, very diverse.
And as far as places that Americans know nothing about, I think that it would easily probably top the list.
Yeah. So is there any pavilion sitting in World Showcase now that could be replaced to balance a little bit more, to have more, we can't bring one country in Africa and have it represent the entire continent. Yeah. Well, we've got, what do we have? Norway, Germany, Italy, France, and the UK. So we have 5 out of the 6 pavilions representing Europe right now. Do they all stay?
I honestly think that they have to. I mean, you obviously can't get rid of Norway anytime for the next 100 years. Right. And UK...
So it's got a good ride. Huh?
UK, their shop is amazingly popular.
Yep. I love walking around that pavilion. That one's so richly themed. Like, you really feel like you got dropped in the middle of the UK. Yeah. Or, in the middle of London, more appropriately.
And the amount of work it would take to refurbish a pavilion to a new theme.
Especially because they would have to shut down the walkway.
Yeah.
And that would cut people off.
That would be very hard.
It would make it very... So I think that if anything new comes in, it has to come into an expansion pad.
Okay. Yeah. And I think there are actually a total of 7, but some of them are in use for things that are maybe quasi-temporary.
One currently is a droid pad.
Right.
But yeah, so there is lots of room for new countries to come in, and I greatly appreciate the fact that new countries are looking to come in, especially since Brazil particularly, there are rumors of Brazil sponsoring it, which is
will put it to the front of the list.
That'll be amazing.
Built.
Yeah, which is exciting. I think that there's a lot of underrepresented areas. I do think that Australia would be great. I think that we should see some African countries come in, because even in Africa, in Animal Kingdom, there's not a place where you can go and be like, African food.
True.
Like, you can get African-inspired food, but not like but local,
not actual...
This is a...
Right.
And I mean, you could go to Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Right, because Boma's pretty good.
It is.
For that.
But I think it would be really nice to have country-specific fare.
Yeah. Yep. And I feel like as far as restaurants that have kind of penetrated the U.S. as a cuisine option, Ethiopia is probably pretty strong. And then probably next, I can't think of anything other than Egypt or Nigeria that would fit that bill as well. Geographically, you can see South Africa.
But the thing about...
there's nothing really...
to be very honest, I think that South Africa has a history that Disney will not want to represent.
That's a good point.
That's what'll happen. South Africa does not have a history that Disney will want to.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that is our Epcot Rumors episode.
Yeah. So far.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
So, yep, that's what I was going to say. So like I said, I'm Jessy Hamilton from The Magical Minute. I have Holly over here, and I have Heather over here, and I'm going to put their information down in the box below. So if you want to plan a trip to Disney to check out all the World Showcase pavilions, you can contact them to help you with your travel needs. In the comments, why don't you guys tell us what you think they're going to do with the Imagination money, what your suggestions are for a new name for Future World, and out of all the pavilions that could come to the World Showcase, what's one that you guys would want to see the most and why? That's all we have for today for the Rumor Reel. We'll see you next time. Bye.